It is time for your favorite Android podcast from the combined crew of blindandroidusers.com and accessibleandroid.com. Now, kick back and enjoy another fine episode from these Android fanboys and gals as they navigate Android from a blindness perspective. And now, here's your crew. Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 127 of the Blind Android Users Podcast. We're recording today on May the 13th, 2023. I'm Warren Carr, alongside with my co-hosts. We are bringing you the best of Google I/O, and we'll be talking about that. And with me in studio today, we've got John Dyer from Virginia. We got Doug Cameron from Canada. Austin Pinto is in Mumbai. Karen Kewin in Lebanon. That's a pretty girl out there. We got Sally Kundus from Turkey. And then we have a special guest that we'll be talking with today, Zülal, who is from the From Your Eyes app. And we'll be talking with her later on in the spotlight. Coming up also, we have the announcements, and Austin gives us update on what's going on with our YouTube channel. And then closing today's episode, we have a tip of the week from John. That's what we've got coming up in this episode. Welcome to episode 127. Sally, let's start with you, my man. What's going on there in Turkey?
Things are going well in Turkey. The weather is heating up and things are packed here. In a couple of days, I'm moving to my new house, and which is quite exciting part for me. And let's see, I'll be talking to you from my new house in the next episode, hopefully, if things go right, of course.
Congratulations for moving, and make sure you have a housewarming party when you move in there.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. And, you could invite our guest there if she could go eat with you.
Speaking of parties, only after 3 weeks is my birthday, so it's going to be another party one, yeah.
Wonderful. Just let us know. So sure. I'll be singing happy birthday here before too long.
It's on June 1st, and if you ever forget it, you're done.
I will be done for sure. And the problem is that I'm absolutely horrible when it comes to anniversaries. I don't even remember my birthday, believe it or not.
Try this for everyone in this room. Like, if you ever forget that June 1st, I won't be responsible for the consequences.
June 1st. Okay. I'm going to put that on my calendar just to be fair. And what day of the week is June 1st?
Well, June 1st is on Thursday.
What day of the week is June 1st?
June 1st falls on a Thursday.
Yep, on a Thursday. So Thursday it is. I'll have to wake you up and say happy birthday.
Yeah. I'll be glad.
Hey, John, what's going on in Virginia land?
It's good. Just a typical week with the exception of Google I/O and some new Pixel devices that I may or may not have pre-ordered. You'll have to stay tuned to find out. But yeah, this weekend, this morning, we actually took my son. He's just turned 3, but we took him to this thing called Sports of All Sorts at the YMCA, and it's very entertaining. They're trying to teach 3-year-olds how to play soccer, basketball, that sort of thing. And of course, all they want to do is run around and do anything but what they're supposed to.
I remember those days when mine were young, and it was just absolutely beautiful watching those things. And, looking back on those videos, I'm like, oh my gosh, we made it through it all. It was a miracle. Cam, what's going on with you, my man? Is the woman still out there in Vancouver, or is she back?
Oh, no, she's back. She's been back since Tuesday. So, yeah, it's not too bad up here. Just, dealing with the heat wave. Kind of liking it, kind of hating it. Thankfully, keeping clear of all the fires that are happening. They're not getting any better. If anything, they're getting much worse. Pretty bad since, beginning of May, we've already had a ton of fires in the province about a month early than normal. So, yeah, it's literally the epitome of hell in this province right now.
That is really odd, though. I mean, that is so early. And talking about a heat wave, we're having that southerly thing coming from Oregon. And I think today, believe it or not, I think we're going to be hitting like 87 degrees. So abnormal for this time of year. And those guys, they are like 95 degrees or almost 100 degrees. It's just, I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, we're sitting. I don't have the calculation in front of me, but we're sitting around 27 Celsius. So we're pretty warm when you're dealing with all the fires around right now and how dry it is. We've had very little rain, so it's pretty bad.
That's really bad. Karen girl, the pretty one from Lebanon. What's going on with you, my dear?
Well, it's starting to become warmer. The weather is starting to become warm, but it's still spring. So we are just starting to hit 20s, but the early 20s. So we are still in a good weather, and it was a good week.
Wonderful. Pinto boy, what's going on with you, my man?
So Mumbai is right now, I don't know how to describe it, but it's more than boiling, and I'm just fed up of this heat. I don't know when the rains are going to start. The heat is less, but the humidity is more, which makes you feel more hot. So it's the living hell too, I think so. It's really boiling.
But when it's humid like that, though, it keeps you nice and slippery like a fish, doesn't it?
Yeah. You just leave an air conditioned building, and within 2 minutes you feel like you just had bath and come out.
This is one of the reasons why I don't like going to the Midwestern section of our country here in the summertime, and the eastern part of the country. It's always humid in the summertime, and I just don't like that humidity. I think the heat, I don't mind dry heat like we have out here in the West, but when it's humid, it's not good. That's what kills.
This is the announcement segment of Blind Android Users podcast. Stay tuned to hear important information regarding the podcast, surveys, and the latest news.
Up next, we got announcements. And of course, Austin standing by with those announcements. Austin, what we got in store?
The only announcement or the thanks that we got is a really big thanks to our podcast crew member John for reorganizing our channel. So if you go to Blind Android Users on the YouTube app of your mobile, you will see the playlist tab, and then there are 12 playlists neatly organized and really well done, John. And even in the PC, if you go to youtube.com/blind Android Users and you click on the playlist tab, you will see the same 12 playlists. So, John, if you can describe what the 12 playlists are and what they contain in short.
Sure. So I probably don't have all of them memorized, but I will say there's categories like event coverage, which we're doing today, an interview, which we have today, and Android basics, talkback highlights, that sort of thing. And of course, Warren's favorite, my Android journey. And, depending on the type of playlist, if it's something that's a series that you're going to want to sit and listen to, like Android basics or talkback highlights or our series on CSR, the playlists are ordered chronologically, so you can go through them in order. But if it's something like an app demo, which we also have a playlist for app demos, or like the event coverage like we're doing today, or announcements, there's a playlist for announcements. The type of playlists where you're going to want access to the most recent information first, those are ordered with the most recent things at the top so you can get to them quicker.
So now you won't see the playlist like episode 127, episode 126. You'll see neatly organized playlists which are really good. And we are still open to suggestions. If you think you want the episode playlist back, then you can send us an email to contactus@blindandroidusers.com, and maybe we may have the newer episodes playlist like we are going forward. But I don't think that will be necessary because this playlist is more easy to use.
Yeah, and there is a playlist for full episodes. So if you know you want to go listen to a specific episode, you can go to that playlist, and those are chronologically ordered as well, so you can find quickly the episode that you want to listen to.
And some of the new episodes also have chapter markers added to them. So if you just start playing and you move the seek bar, you will see things like introduction or the announcements, and you will see other like points in the episode. So you can just move to that point and start listening from there.
Thank you so much, John, for working on those because I know it was a mess. And we've cleaned up house, guys. So go in there and take a listen and find things more easily the way they ought to be. Thank you so much.
This is the Spotlight segment. Stay tuned for premium interviews, device unboxing, and more.
We move on now to the event, and we're talking about the Google I/O, or is it Google AI? It could actually be Palm Pilot 2. So today we're doing that coverage. Wednesday, May the 10th, was when Google I/O, 2023 came through. And so today BAU is reflecting on that, and we'll have text from crew members, what they like about it, what they don't like about it. We know this was all AI focused, but yet in the mix of all of that, we have some 3 devices that Google surprised us with, and we'll be talking about some of those devices or all of those devices and see who is getting what and who's not getting what. John, let's start with you. What is it about Google AI or Google I/O that you like for this year? I know the focus, like I said, was mainly on AI, and it's never been this huge about AI. And I think Google is just trying to leapfrog over everyone else, when it comes to this AI. And I'm kind of glad, they brought it to the forefront.
Yeah, I personally wasn't. I'm more interested in the hardware, but I understand why they had to, with ChatGPT and everything, blowing up this year, they had to jump in and say, "Hey, but don't forget about us,"
Exactly. And so the whole focus was on there. And like what Sundar Pichai was saying and some of the guys there, I think the thing I took home with me is boldness and responsibility, because we all understand, what this AI could do and the consequences. And so it's a huge responsibility and it's a bold move, but yet in the same breath, that boldness needs to be guided by responsibility. And I think that's a bigger picture, because if we don't, bad actors could grab hold of these things and could turn everything onto its own head. For me, though, I think the part that I really liked was that video transcription, AI thing. Here I am, speaking in English and talking about, Google I/O, and they could have me saying that in German that I don't even know a single word in except Hingxing. When I'm on the airplane, what do you want to eat? I'm like Hingxing or whatever for chicken. I think that's all that I know. But here, I could be speaking absolute perfect German, and showing my facial expression, my lips movement, and all of that. I think that is just the crux of the matter. And to me, that's the part that actually fascinated me. What do you guys think about this part of that AI? Of course, it's being powered by that Palm 2 pilot, like I said, Palm 2. What do you guys think about that?
So Google, when the keynote just started and they just directly started talking about AI, I knew from that point on that this I/O was AI focused, because the first topic of the keynote itself was AI. And I like hardware. I don't like AI much, although I use ChatGPT, but I'm more fascinated with the Pixel 7a because that is the first budget Pixel device with wireless charging. So My one side is telling me to go for it, the other side is telling me to wait.
Yeah, I know you kind of like those devices, Austin, and yet in the same breath, this is a guy that keeps saying, I don't like Pixel. He likes to go with, Ed and talk about, Pixel is bad, blah, blah, blah. And talking about Ed, as you can see, we don't have both Ed and Fee in here today. They have some appointments and things like that. So those guys are not here with us. So Austin is going to be the Pixel basher, and yet in the same breath, he wants a Pixel and doesn't care
See,
too much about AI.
I want the Pixel. I want the Pixel because before complaining, you have to buy and try it. Otherwise, there is no point complaining. So I can buy it, try it, and then complain.
I see. I see.
That's respectable.
Yeah, I hear that. That's absolutely respectable. So let's talk about, now that we're talking about devices and all of that, let's talk about the other tools in the AI. Like I've said, the Palm 2 is the power behind it. That's the backbone for it, all of the various tasks and, things like math, coding, reasoning, multilingual translation, natural language, and all of that. The Palm 2 is the powerhouse behind that. And that Palm 2 is trained on multilingual texts from over 100 languages. And that's huge. That's giving it an edge, over the other ones in understanding things like idioms and phrases in different languages and all of that, which makes it really huge because these are areas that sometimes we got, false results in and all of that. This is a very important development as these other AI models often, generate fake information that I said, that, may sound like truth, but it's not. So I think we're glad to see this coming through. And in addition, Google has other modifications of the system, intended at doing different things, such as the version known as, the Med Palm 2, which basically is trained on health data to answer questions similar to those that you will find in medical exams. And, they also have that expert mode that is also is called the SEC 2, and that's at an expert level. So that's something that's based on the US model of medicine and all of that. So I'm glad to see that. The SEC 2 Palm 2 is that version intended to help detect threats in code and explain the behavior of potential, malicious scripts and things like that. Because like we said, when we're doing AI, people can generate anything that they wanted to. And so it's a huge responsibility. And Google is kind of keeping that, in mind. And Google continued to say that it's already using Palm 2 to power 25 features and products, which include its experimental, chatbot, Bard. Of course, we all know about Bard, and we're talking about Bard, and now in like 180 countries. Unfortunately, the EU and Canada are not going to be seeing Bard for the time being until, I guess, some regulatory things get settled or whatever. Those of you in Canada and the EU are not going to be seeing the Bard in your area yet. So that's one thing to think about. And the Google workspace apps like Docs, Slides and Sheets, all of those are going to be powered by that, Palm 2. So talking about phones, in order for phones to take advantage of these powerful AI ventures, Google has in place a light version of Palm 2 known as the lizard, something I call the lizard, and that's, the gecko, which is capable of processing 20 tokens per second. And I think that's really nice to see that. As powerful as the Palm 2 language model is, though, Google is already hard at work on its successor called Gemini. So, you guys remember Project Gemini when those guys were trying to go to the moon. So Google now has the successor of Palm 2 already. They're working on it, which is called Gemini, which is supposed to be more efficient and multimodal. So looks like Google is all in on this AI thing, guys. What do you guys think?
I actually kind of like it because much like every other platform, there's always competition. And right now we've really seen ChatGPT kind of taking over, but having Google coming into this space now, you may actually start seeing a little bit more competition and development of the AI platforms, which will only better not only our utilization of them, but also will assist in the regulations around what we're using AI for and how we're using it within our technology.
Now, in terms of accessibility, there was some accessibility. It wasn't in the keynote, and kind of always bothers me. Why don't we have accessibility in the keynote, but rather is more like a developer thing? Of course, I know this is all developer stuff, but I would love to hear a mention of accessibility now and then in the main keynote. You guys remember back in Oreo when we had that accessibility featured, front and center, then, when Oreo came in and the ability to start TalkBack with those 2 volume keys being held down. I like that. And we haven't seen anything like it to where, accessibility was part of that keynote. But anyway, we do have some accessibility thing, and we'll put that URL here in the show notes. There was Nimmer talking about Braille support, which is getting better in in TalkBack 14, which is yet to come, and it wasn't in the beta 2, but it's going to be coming sometime. And the Braille support there, most especially those that like to use a virtual Braille keyboard, it's getting more useful because you can do things like selecting and cutting and copying and things like that. Something that version 13.1 at the moment does not have. And so to see that come through, I think that's a good treat for our Braille users and people who like to use Braille virtual keyboard. John, you like using that Braille virtual keyboard. Is this some good news? Some nice ringing thing to the ear that we will be looking forward to?
Yeah, I'm excited about it. I mean, I almost sometimes don't use the Braille keyboard because I'm constantly switching out of it just to do things like change granularity. So it'll be nice to be able to just do it from within the keyboard. Like if I need to edit, I need to back out of it, move my cursor, select the text and all that manually. So to be able to just stay in the keyboard and do all this is going to be awesome. I'll use the keyboard a lot more now.
Yeah, so absolutely kudos to those developers for doing that. And besides that, there was another lady, I think her name is Charlene, talk about some of the new things that are happening, for those that are hard of hearing or the deaf. And so I'm glad Google is also taking care of that. And then there was another lady, Karen, who is like the developer, the UI, most especially making accessibility understandable for developers out there. And so if you're a developer, this is something to look into because you'll have those tools out there to support your work, making things easier for you to know how to code with accessibility in mind. And it was really nice to see these 3 guys come on and talk about accessibility, which is very important to us. And that's some of the things that I really like about it.
Yeah, and just a couple examples of the developer related things. It's like being able to customize focus order, like where you want the focus to go when somebody's swiping through items, and you can customize like how often you want TalkBack to announce a change, like if it's on a timer or something. So this is all stuff that developers can now tie into, and I encourage any developers that are listening to this, or if you know developers, like take advantage of this stuff, because if the developers don't take advantage of it, it's not gonna help us. So it's good. I'm glad Google's adding these features, but I'm also hoping that the developers take advantage of it.
There is a problem related to accessibility. Yeah, all the improvements are good. The Braille additional support is good. And the developer things is really great. But there's something which is important, which is AI. They were talking about AI all over the place, but they didn't include it in things like Lookout or TalkBack. So like image descriptions. So you see, like Be My Eyes is using ChatGPT, and it's something great. Whereas Google is not trying to do that in Lookout. But you should expect that Google is going to do such thing, but at the same time you feel like no, Google is not doing anything related to AI in this way. So I think this is a problem, and they are just focusing on AI in stuff which is mainstream, not in things related to accessibility.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think Google has fallen behind when it comes to accessibility in this area. Like on an iPhone, you do have image description. So I'm hoping Google, obviously, they've proven, I mean, they had a whole section on this type of thing, that they can do this stuff with AI. So I guess we can only hope, keep our fingers crossed, that at some point they'll use this, in that way with TalkBack and Lookout and that type of thing.
Yeah, but even without AI, currently the image description in Lookout is something like it's really behind, even currently. Whereas iPhone, they are not using any AI, right? Are they using any artificial intelligence? No, they are not doing that with the image description. But you get something really surprisingly good. I feel jealous whenever I see it with someone.
That's why you need From My Eyes.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, you know what I mean, girl.
Yeah.
But I do understand your point, and I understand your pain. But then, Google has a way of surprising when you think they're not doing something, and then you wake up in the morning and boom, something comes through. So I think that this summer is going to be definitive as to what we can see and what we may not see. So I will still keep my fingers crossed yet to see what happens between now and the final release of Android 14. I'm almost positive that we may see some good stuff coming through, but we'll see what happens. But if Google were to take advantage of AI for us in accessibility, no one can touch them. You can't even touch this because, Google is the king of data. And frankly, if they utilize their AI, we'll have the best of every thing, most especially when we're talking about accessibility. So I do understand what you are saying, Karen, and, most especially with Lookout could be made better, and we'll see what happens between now and then. And, we'll see.
That's where I kind of agree with both you, Warren, and Kareen about the AI and Lookout, especially. Like, I look at something like Apple, and the one thing I have to say that they do right is when they implement something, they do it good and they do it right before they actually release it. I'm actually wondering if Google is taking maybe that same kind of step from Apple's playbook with introducing AI into things like TalkBack, Lookout, other similar applications. I'm wondering if they're maybe slowly or staggering their launch of AI usage within those apps, specifically because I want to make sure it works and works correctly. Because obviously, if you implement AI into Lookout and it's not functioning as expected, it can give some pretty bad results. So I'm wondering if maybe they're not doing a lot of internal testing prior to actually announcing them embedding the AI platforms into their various applications, other than their work suite.
I agree with you, Cam, because if you look at what we have, for example, in TalkBack 13.1, the image text description is not really what people were expecting. People were thinking that they were going to be getting like real image description and all of that. So I am thinking that these guys are rethinking these things, and it would make sense to do it better. Like you said, the other guys on the other aisle, when they bring something, is something that works. So they kind of work on it and make sure that by the time you push it out there to the people, that it actually works. So I think if Google is taking this approach and then working on it to making sure that this thing works as intended before rolling it out there, I think that's a better approach than, pushing something to us that doesn't do what it's intended for.
Exactly.
Okay, let's talk about phones, because I know Austin likes the phones, and we got 3 phones, right? So we're starting with the Pixel 7a and its availability. So the Pixel 7a phones will be available in the following countries. We got the US, Canada, UK, Ireland, Germany, France, Spain, Italy, Norway, Netherlands, Denmark. We got Sweden, we got Japan, we got Australia, Singapore, Taiwan, and India. Those are the countries that the 7A would be available in. And if you're looking into that, maybe if you're not in one of these countries, probably the best place may be to get it on Amazon. But, I don't know how that's going to work out. Just like those of us who live here in the States, we want some certain phones that we don't have in our region, but you try to get it on Amazon, and that's the place to go get them.
I was actually surprised with the 7A in a couple of ways. The price of it, because it went up a little bit, and the specs of it, because it's so close now to what the actual Pixel 7 is. It has the same amount of RAM. It has the same processor. It's got wireless charging now. I think the cameras are not as good, so that's one differentiator. And I guess the selling point for some might be that it's got a smaller screen. So, because some people like small phones still. So I think it's a 6.1 inch screen, and the Pixel 7 is a 6.4 inch screen. So it's a little smaller, but I feel like it's a little bit like stepping on the toes of the Pixel 7, because it's only $100 cheaper, and the Pixel 7 goes on sale a lot for $500 itself. So I'm a little curious about what Google was thinking here.
Sometimes actually I've seen the Pixel 7, fell down to as low as $450. So this is truly, a real bad thing. Well, yeah, let me say it's a bad thing price-wise, because yes, it's the first one to have wireless charging and all of that, and faster charging than the other A series phones from Google. However, the price is $500, and then the Pixel 7 is $600, and goes on sale regularly and falling down to the same price or even below that $500. What would you do? Would you take the 7 or the 7A? That's a very tough proposal, and I probably I would be taking the 7. But then in the same breath, there's something that was brought to the 7A that is not found in any of the Pixel phones, and that's the adaptive vibration. When you go to sounds and vibrations and all of that, you can customize, vibrations to where it adapts to where you are at, and that is only on the 7A. So, and I'm sure it's going to trickle down to all the other Pixel series, especially the 7 and 6 series. But that's the one thing that sets it apart from the rest of the pack. Let's talk about the Pixel Fold and, the trade-ins. So we got the Pixel Fold, and I think Google really did some good homework here because when you fold the phone, it's not quite 6 inches, right? It's like 5.8 inch or something like that. Do you remember how tall it is, John? Yeah, I think it's 5.8 inches.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Maybe 5.7, but
Yeah, somewhere in there. So, if you're looking for a small phone, finally, this may be it. But if you're like me, frankly, I don't think I'm not at a place where I would like to be using the Fold. I see the Fold as a productivity tool in a different way, and it's not for everyone, and especially I know it's not for me, and so I wouldn't be jumping on it, and most especially at $1,800. But still I'm getting it, so we'll see if we unbox it for our podcast and see if it goes into my museum and things like that. But the trade in Google, I don't know. The trading was not very good
yeah.
for all the devices.
Don't get me started on that.
You want to talk about trade-ins? I will give a rundown of the trade-ins.
I'm going to be honest. It hurt my feelings. I went to trade in my Pixel 7 Pro, and they offered me $380 for it, right? But here's the kicker. When I said I would like to trade in an iPhone 14 Pro Max, they said, okay, we'll give you $950 for that phone. So I understand why they're doing it. They want people to convert. They want iPhone users to switch over. But at the same time, it's like they're disrespecting their own Pixels a little bit. I think like they're going to give me what's the Pixel 7 Pro is a $900 phone, and they're going to give me $380 for it. And then the iPhone 14 Pro Max is an $1,100 phone, and they're going to give $950 for it. Like, that's a huge disparity.
That also really shows what Google values their devices at and how much they have determined their devices depreciate over a very short period of time.
Yeah, so here's a rundown. These are, the $900 trade-ins, include the following phones, iPhone 14 Pro Max, iPhone 14 Pro, iPhone 13 Pro Max, or Galaxy Z Fold 4. Those will fetch you that $900 trade-in. The iPhone 13 Pro fetches you $850, and the Z Fold 3 comes in at $800. So if you have an older, not the Z Fold 4, but you have the Z Fold 3, that will fetch you $800. Then moving along that, you got the Galaxy S22 Ultra that fetches you $750, while the Galaxy Z Fold 2 fetches you $725. From here, the following devices will get you the following trade-ins. We got the Galaxy Z Flip 4 fetching you $700. Galaxy S21 Ultra goes for $650. Galaxy Fold grabs you $625. Galaxy Z Flip 3 will garner you $600. Pixel 7a bites off. I don't know why they put Pixel 7a in here. Who has a Pixel 7a and want to, send it in for
that's funny.
The Fold that is not yet. The 7a is not.
If you have a 7a and you don't want it right now, just return it. Get your full money.
Exactly.
Trade it in.
But if you trade it in for the Fold, it will bite off $500. The Pixel 7 Pro, like John says, fetches you $380, and it doesn't say whether it's 256 or 512. So, for example, I have the 512. And do you think I want to give that phone for $380? I'll be absolutely insane to do that. iPhone 14 grabs you $350. Pixel 7 settles in for $295. iPhone 13 will take home some $230. Pixel 6 Pro will take you some $216.50. And last but not the least, the Pixel 6 will only give you an okay $150.40. Just imagine that. I might as well sell it on eBay, right?
Yeah, exactly. They're definitely not they're like I said earlier, they're trying to get conversions. Like if you're trading in a Galaxy or you're trading in an iPhone, they're going to give you very good value for it. Like basically what you could sell it for yourself, if not more. In fact, for the Fold 4, they're offering $900. When I traded in my Fold 4 to Samsung to get my S23 Ultra, they only gave me $750 for it. So Google's actually offering more for Samsung's devices than Samsung itself is offering.
So I say that Samsung's actually bad this year with trade-ins. We talked about this in one of our episodes, maybe like a couple of weeks or so ago. So I think they both are doing very bad this year. And just imagine your Fold and Samsung wanted to give you that little amount that they wanted to give you for the S23 Ultra. I think that is not good.
Yeah, and
That's
while we're
what-
talking about trade-ins, I just want to mention that the way Google does it is a little different from Samsung's version. You will have to pay the full price up front. So if you have a credit card, you're gonna have to put the whole price on the credit card, and then when Google receives your trade-in device, they'll give you a partial refund for the amount they quoted you. So it's different from how Samsung does it. Samsung will you'll only have to pay the quoted amount, and then if you don't send it in, they'll charge your credit card a second time. So it works differently.
I like that better because then, if your device comes in and it's not in the shape that you said it was, then of course they're going to deduct from it. And I like that better than the way that Google is doing it. So let's talk about some of the specs of this Pixel Fold. And of course, we know that it's fueled or powered by that G2 Tensor G2. And then it comes with 12 gigs of RAM and 256 or 512 gigs of storage. I wanted the 512 when I put mine in, but I wanted it in porcelain, and that only has 256. I didn't want another black one, so I went for the 256. The 512 would be 1919, and this that's $1,919, basically 1920, as to the 256, which is 1800. That's 1799. So when unfolded, you have that 7.6-inch main display and 5.8-inch, as we said, when it's folded. Both screens, whether folded or unfolded, have that 120 hertz display. For charging, it has at least 21 watt and wired charging, and it supports wireless charging as well. So that is a good thing to see. But I don't know. This Fold is just, I think the price is so expensive, and if I were Google, I should have started that thing at $1,300, not $1,700. You want to undercut the competition, like what they did with the Pixel 6 series and Pixel 7 series and all of that. You're looking at Samsung, you want to bring yours in a little bit lower, not starting it off at the same price with Samsung. Samsung, this is their fourth iteration, and this is your first, and you're starting it at the same price. I think it was a little bit too ambitious, in my never to be humble opinion.
Yeah, that's true. They should have started it a little bit lower. If all goes well, though, and they don't have the hardware issues that sometimes, let's be honest, sometimes creep up with Pixel phones, I think on paper, maybe not by processor, but the cameras, the aspect ratios of the screens, I think a lot of things about this phone are better than the Fold. the Fold has been known to have like mediocre cameras compared to the flagships, whereas this basically almost has the same types of sensors, camera sensors, as like the Pixel 7 Pro. I think they're a little bit different. The sensor might actually be smaller, even though it's the same amount of megapixels, but it's still much better cameras than what's on the Galaxy Fold devices.
They absolutely got it right, and probably that's the best camera you can find on any foldable. So yeah, I think they did their homework here. It just kind of bothers me though that they kind of made it so expensive. But we'll see how this all comes out. And knowing Google, they may decide to kind of cut down the price, and then early adopters like ourselves, will be looking back and said, hey, should I have waited? But now I'm not going to regret it. It's just okay. The $200-$300 more is not going to kill me,
Yeah. They also did mention that it has the largest battery in a foldable phone, which that's something that concerns me. I mean, it is technically larger, but the battery in this is smaller than the battery in the Pixel 7 Pro. And it's going to need to power a much larger screen, assuming you use it open most of the time. I guess if you used it closed, the battery life would be pretty good compared. It'd probably be about the same as the Pixel 7 Pro, I would think.
That was actually kind of my concern when I did some reading on it, is seeing that it's the same size battery, but it's as in the 7 Pro, but you're basically handling double the screen. We know from Samsung that the smaller batteries or equal batteries and double size don't work. So I'm wondering if we maybe have better power management occurring within the Fold, or if we're just going to simply see a lot less screen time.
Yeah, only time will tell. So I'll be honest, the battery life on the Galaxy Fold 4 that I had wasn't great. I just got used to the fact that I was going to have to charge it at some point during the day. So I just made it my routine, while I'm eating lunch, charge it for 10 minutes, and then it'd be back up to 90% or something. So I think it's just a compromise at this point for all foldable devices that you're going to have to deal with. Obviously, it's different depending on, I think the battery life for blind users, especially if they're completely blind, might not be a big deal because they'll have the screen hidden with the brightness turned down anyway. But I think for low vision users who usually, for the most part, use screen brightness pretty high, it's going to really affect the battery life.
Yeah, and that's actually my exact issue with even looking at a Fold, whether Google's or Samsung's, because my screen brightness is always at 100%. Everything that would drain that battery fairly quickly, I'm utilizing. So
yeah, same here.
For me, I want to go with the route of a Fold because I like having the option of the bigger screen, but I'm also sitting there going, do I really want to sacrifice only charging my phone, once a day? Do I want to sacrifice that and maybe start having to deal with charging it back to once, twice throughout the day? It's one of those things that, only the individual really knows what they need. So that's going to be something you're going to have to think about, is do you have the time or the ability to be charging your device partway through the day?
I think that until we have a better battery technology, the Folds will always have problem with battery. But I think that, like you said, though, Google's battery is a little bit more than what Samsung Z Fold has. So maybe we'll see when we have it in hand. And if they make the outer screen, when it's folded, work just like the regular phone would do, I think that will solve a lot of problems, John, like you mentioned. And for me, if I have it, frankly, I would not be using it unfolded. Most of the time, I'll just be using the just folded screen because, if it allow me access to everything on the phone, I may not be using default unless
Yeah.
I'm watching something or I'm presenting something or
multitasking is a good.
or multitasking. Exactly.
Yeah, like it's nice having to, like, instead of having to split screen top and bottom, like to be able to have a split screen left and right with like a full size app on each side. That's actually
It's better.
one of my favorite things about having a folding device is to be able to do that.
That's
Exactly.
right.
That's my attraction because I use split screen fairly frequently. So it's like having two full-size apps would make it so much easier to navigate than having, half the app on top and half an app on the bottom.
One thing that people were hoping for at Google I/O is for Google to announce that they were going to match Samsung when it comes to OS updates and say they're going to start providing 4 updates for feature update, 4 years of feature updates, but they didn't announce that. So it's still 3 years of feature updates, 5 years of security updates, and that's a little bit disappointing, especially considering that we're almost at Android 14. So if you buy one of these devices they just announced, in 3 months from now, you're going to have used up one of your updates and you're only going to have 2 more years of support for that. And I think that's really disappointing to a lot of people. So I think Google needs to step it up, at least match Samsung. If not, just say, we'll support you for 5 years. Like, why not? You're Google. You have your own processor now. You've run out of excuses. Start supporting these devices longer. That's my opinion.
John, that's something that's always bothered me, most especially. You get a device in May and in August, and believe it or not, I think if they follow the footprints of Android 13, we'll have the full final release of Android 14 in August because it's the same timetable. And so I don't see any reason why we are not going to be seeing the final release of Android 14 in August. And so you get this phone in June or July, and then August you have the Android 14, and that's counting against you as having used one of your updates for a year. I think that is so wrong and could not be any more wrong than that. And I've always argued that if you buy a phone, especially from Google, for example, and all of them in reality, and if it's just at the nose of the new OS iteration, that OS iteration that comes through shouldn't be counted as receiving one of the 3 years. I think that is so wrong. So I don't know what Google would do about this, but the whole thing, like you said, they should just bump it up to 4 years, because the complaint had always been, Qualcomm was the one with the drivers and all of that. And so it was hard to support that. And now you have your own and you're giving me 3 years still. Come on.
Not only that, Samsung's using Qualcomm. And they're doing it for 4 years. So that's the excuse. It's not going to work anymore.
It doesn't work. And so Samsung is proving, hey, you know what? Even with Qualcomm, we're giving people 4. And Google, this is why I say Google is no longer the gatekeeper of Android. Is Samsung. Samsung is the gatekeeper of Android, because at least they're giving you those 4 years of OS update, and Google can't even touch that. It's just so shameful. Very shameful. Let's move on to Android 14 beta, though, because we can leave that out of here, can we? Because on that same day, we also have the Android 14 beta 2 dropping in and finally fixing that problem that we have where the SIM card was causing a problem, and we have that com.android.qns has stopped working. That got fixed with this beta 2. And then there's something in there also that I want to mention here in passing in Android 14 beta 2. It's the fact that, how the location history, and Google has taken it a step farther, because, some apps will want to track your location or, sell it to other, phone manufacturers or other companies and things like that. Google has kind of implemented something to where you could see those changes, and developers are forced to make that known. And so if you go to the system settings, if you have Android 14 running now, and you go to system settings and you go to privacy, and then you tap on privacy again. Let me grab my phone and show you what I'm talking about.
10:44 a.m. Lock screen. Device
Turn up the
finders. Find
volume
my
here.
device. Privacy. Permissions. Dashboard.
So here I am.
System.
I'm already in the privacy. So when you go to system settings and tap on privacy and you're on this screen, then here is what I'm talking about.
Data sharing updates for location. Review apps that change the way they may share your location data. 9 of 17.
That's the one I'm talking about.
Data sharing updates for location. Back. Button. Out of list.
And here's what it says.
These apps have changed the way they may share your location data. They may not have shared it before, or may now share it for advertising or marketing purposes. No updates at this time. 1 of 2. In list. 2 items.
So in other words, if you have apps that have changed their data sharing or location data sharing, you'll find those apps here. In other words, if the developer changes things and did not tell you, Google tracks that and will show you those apps in here saying, hey, look, this app has changed its policy and now they're sharing your location with other, services. And so it's up to you to say, hey, you know what? I'm not going to keep this app. I'm going to get it out of here because they're violating my privacy. They're trying to pull something on me without telling me. So you don't have to go to the Play Store to see if there's any changes to your apps or, the app location sharing. You could just come here and view those things. And so as we can see, I don't have any such that has changed.
The developers of these apps provided info about their data sharing practices to an app store. They may update it over time. Data sharing practices may vary based on your app version, use, region, and age. 2 of 2.
And so, yeah, I don't have any apps that have changed, but that's something I just wanted to mention, that you can come in here and find apps that have changed their data sharing about location and all of that. And that's a neat thing to have in this beta 2. The other thing that is here in beta 2 is the fact that we now have a true separation between notification and the ringtone. It used to be very annoying because your ringtone, if you set the ringtone to 80%, the same thing is true of your notification. And, Samsung had it right and Google didn't have it right until now. And finally, we have the separation of those two volumes, and I'm glad to see that. Now that we've talked about this, let's talk about some of the fonts that qualify. We know that 10 fonts now, or 10 companies, or rather 10 fonts, I should say. Some companies have jumped onto opening up beta for their fonts. And so the following fonts are now qualified for Android 14 beta. And these would include the IQ. So it's a Chinese thing, IQOO 11, that qualifies for the Android 14. Lenovo Tab Extreme Wi-Fi qualifies for it as well. The Nothing Phone 1 also qualifies for that. If you remember the Nothing Phone, the one we dubbed as the Christmas tree phone, that qualifies for Android 14 beta. OnePlus 11 is one of those. Apple Fine N2 is one of those. Apple Fine N2 Flip is another one that qualifies for that. The Realme G22 Pro also qualifies for Android 14 beta. Techno, you guys know of a phone called Techno? I think I've heard it, but there's something called the Techno Camon, the COMON 20 series. That also would support Android 14 beta. Vivo X90 Pro also qualifies. Then we have Xiaomi 12T, Xiaomi 13, Xiaomi 13 Pro, and Xiaomi Pad 6. So a lot of Xiaomi's here qualifying for that Android 14. We'll put the listing page in our show notes so you could check it to see if your phone is one of those that qualifies for this Android 14. So it's nice to see that we have early adapters, and Samsung is not on here for some reason. And even though rumors are saying that they're starting UI 6 internal testing, so sounds to me like probably maybe next month or July, Samsung may start, a general beta for Android 14.
This is Spotlight Segment 2. Stay tuned for premium interviews, device unboxing, and more.
We now turn on to our Spotlight segment, and today we have a special guest, and I'm talking about our friend Zülal from Turkey, the lady from Your Eyes. And Zülal, we're glad to have you in here. How are you doing in Turkey? Let's do a
thank you
little
so
well
much.
check.
First of all, hi everyone. I'm so happy to be here with you, and thank you so much for your invitation. Maybe I can also introduce myself. Maybe I can say a big hello from Turkey.
Absolutely. So you go ahead and say your name correct, because I know I have a tendency of messing up names, and
Okay.
I don't want to mess up a lady's name, for example.
Okay, Zülal. Actually, my name is Zülal. It's kind of an interesting name, by the way. And the meaning of my name is water, the clean water, in Arabic sense. So yes, I can explain like this.
Good. And the good thing is that we have Karen from Lebanon, so she understands Arabic as well. So
Really?
if I'm messing up, she's gonna correct me here.
Okay. Good.
Well, welcome. And we want to talk about your app, and we've been wanting to get you in here. It's like trying to court a woman. Sometimes it's kind of a little bit difficult to get her to say, yeah, I do. Finally, you said, yes, I do. No, to be actual, you are very courteous. The very first time I reached out to you, you agreed to come out. And so I'm so thankful that you did that.
Thank you so much. You're welcome.
Yeah. So we're talking about your app, and it's called From Your Eyes. And what is From Your Eyes? Kind of get our friends or our listeners up to speed as to what From Your Eyes is. And then we'll talk about some of the features and what it does and does not do, and all of that.
Okay. First of all, maybe I can introduce myself to everyone, actually. I'm founder of From Your Eyes application. By the way, I'm totally visually impaired at the same time. I was a low vision child until 2011, and then I completely lost my vision. Based on this, I started to use the assistive technologies such as Seeing AI, Be My Eyes, and the other apps, actually. And I saw that we used artificial intelligence, or we used volunteers. But there was no application which provided me fast and qualified descriptions with the cooperation of artificial intelligence and humanity. Based on this, I started to develop my own app, which is From Your Eyes, actually, and we make a cooperation in our application in order to provide more fast and qualified descriptions to the visually impaired users. With that way, actually, maybe I can also make a summary in the process of the From Your Eyes. When you upload a photo to the application, we directly give you a kind of an AI description, actually, in an AI template. If you think that it is needed to be improved by the human, actually, you can also send them to the descriptor of the applications. By the way, there is a good news. Everyone also can be a volunteer of the From Your Eyes application. So we call them the descriptor of the application. They look at the photos and the descriptions of the AI. They make some improvements by typing and resend them to our users, actually. By doing this, we train our artificial intelligence service and feed our visual library. Maybe I can also talk about especially accuracy. As you know that if the artificial intelligence is accurate, actually, it means that it gives you for example, the over 90% accuracy. Our model give you the 94% of accuracy, by the way, in the artificial intelligence service. On the other hand, you get the OCR part from the application. And as you know, if the accuracy is high, we can also say that in the Microsoft, the accuracy is 80. But in our application, we can also give the descriptions with the OCR over 85% with the accuracy, actually, which means that, yes, we could train our artificial intelligence service with the cooperation more accurate than the normal ones. By the way, I am student ambassador of Microsoft at the same time, and barrier breaking female leader of Microsoft. I took some responsibilities in Singa integration to the Turkey and other applications. And then I saw that there is a new way to develop our technology and increase our accuracy on the artificial intelligence service, actually, by using the cooperation with the human, actually.
You know what I really like about you? You have passion, and to have a young lady being passionate about what she does, I think it's very important. You bring that passion to your app, and that is absolutely beautiful. And the most important thing here is that you yourself are visually impaired, and therefore you know where it hurts. And I always say, we know where it hurts, and we know how to go about correcting those areas that hurt. And so we are so thankful for what you are doing and bringing all of that passion on there.
You're welcome.
We're glad to have you. So let's talk about some of the things you've mentioned, some of the things it does. And so this is more or less like Be My Eyes, yet it's not like Be My Eyes, because it's a little bit different. And the whole idea is image recognition, right? It doesn't do, text recognition, right? Let's get that out of the door. Does it do text recognition?
Yeah, it does. It does.
It does text recognition.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. We give them from just the panel, actually. You don't need to go to other panels in the application. You just take the description of actually maybe the letters or of an image, actually. It doesn't matter for us.
So in other words, we don't have like different modes, and this is something I've always been talking about. I got to jump into this mode, jump into this other mode, whether I'm in Lookout or in Vision or the Seeing AI you mentioned earlier on. I have to switch to modes in order to get access to those things. And I've always said that sighted people, their eyes is their eyes. They don't have different modes of the eye, So when you put a text in front of them, they recognize this is text.
Yeah.
And when a cat is in front of them, they recognize a little kitty. Talking about kitty. My daughter got a little kitty, nice little cat. So we don't need this mode, and I've got to go switch to this mode and go switch to that mode. And frankly, I think I like the idea of all inclusive. I don't need to be switching modes. So this is absolutely beautiful. Yeah, I think
actually, yeah,
it was well thought out for you to do it that way.
Actually, I have a favorite qualification in our application. The feature, maybe I can say like this: the positions of the objects. Actually, as you know, when we, for example, want to get a description from as an artificial intelligence service, actually, we need to discover every detail of the image. For example, when we recognize an image, we need to, for example, know the positions of the objects or of the other elements on the visual. We can also give the detailed information on the visual based on the artificial intelligence service. For example, the positions of the objects or positions of the letters. It doesn't matter for us. Text, actually, maybe we can say that. You can also get the text and objects positions at the same time from the visual. And you can also put a title and archive this in your application, so you can use the Premier's application kind of an drive service, by the way, which means that you can also have an access to your, for example, more accessible gallery parts in your application without putting any effort. Actually, that's a good way, I think, in order to archive some memories or some important details in your app. By doing this, by the way, you can also export your photos or the documents out of the applications with the text with the descriptions or without descriptions. Again, it is up to you, by the way. And the most beautiful thing in our application is the customization service, by the way. You can also customize your artificial intelligence service according to your preference, because we analyze your data at the same times. By reading your data, actually, we can analyze that what is your, for example, prefers by taking an descriptions, and which one is enough or which one is not enough for you. By analyzing your data, actually, we can also give you the most accurate descriptions. Even though we upload the same photo with you, Warren, we cannot get the same description in our applications, which means that it is according to your prefers, it is according to your personality, it is according to your identity. Because our main purpose is to create your best and unique, actually, assistant. So From Your Eyes is an assistant for the visually impaired users, because our main purpose is to keep your time is on, actually, and not to waste your time by asking, by typing, or other detailed information to our application. And this is the most unique, maybe, value of the From Your Eyes application. You don't need to ask anything. You don't need to add anything to artificial intelligence service. Maybe we can talk about the GPT-4 session if you want, based on your questions, by the way. And this is a new feature, by the way, with the GPT-4 session. And we have a new feature in our application as well, because we trade our artificial intelligence service based on our video library, and then we are going to implement our artificial intelligence service to the GPT-4 API by doing with our, by the way, customization service that we created. By doing this, we have an opportunity to identify our data, analyze our data actually more efficient, in order to give you more detailed information and more detailed descriptions based on your maybe prefers or the previous maybe descriptions that you give us.
Wonderful. That's very good. And so you mentioned some things here about personalization. Basically, one personalizes it to his or her liking, or it basically takes what you have and customizes it for you. So each individual is kind of like a different individual and all of that. Now, is this all AI, or is there any human intervention part of it?
Yes. We have AI and human the cooperation right now in our applications. When you send a photo to the application, first of all, you get a description from the AI part. And if you press not enough button, it is sent to be to our descriptors of the applications, who are the volunteer part of it, and they improve the descriptions and resend them to you again. Based on this, actually, we collect the data of the AI descriptions and also the volunteer descriptions. We make an harmony and train our artificial intelligence service. For example, we have some data in our applications, such as, for example, which widgets was sent by Warren to the descriptors of the applications, which texts were opened, for example, in this image. By doing this, we process our images and texts, and we use them in order to train our artificial intelligence service more, actually.
So is this app free, or does it cost something?
I get your question. Thanks so much. It is free right now. You don't need to pay anything, because our main purpose is to, for example, create the technology for blind. Actually, is free, affordable, because, as you know, some of the assistive technologies are so expensive, so everyone cannot reach them. So we don't collect any payments right now on the applications. Yes, we create some business models, but right now they are not based on the application right now.
Fantastic. And because, cost is usually part of the experience, and to create something is not often cheap. And so to hear that at the moment this is free for a blind user, I think that's a very good, encouraging thing. And even if you decide later on, we can't sustain this without some payment of some sort, then maybe you guys could think about, how to go about subscription models and all of that. But
Yeah.
I think that for now, the most important thing is that you guys are concerned about access, for people with disabilities, especially the blind, and making it possible for us to have those access without, payment. I think that's a very good approach for the time being.
Yeah, exactly right. Because I'm also a visually impaired people's person, actually. So I know that the assistive technology is maybe supposed to be more affordable for everyone because we use them. We really want to try the new technologies. If, for example, they are expensive or something like that, we don't have an opportunity to, for example, improve our life quality, actually. And that's an important part. By developing the technology.
I have a question about the functionality of the app, just how it behaves when you're using it. Does it do the calculations on device in real time as you're scanning, or do you actually have to snap a photo and upload it and wait for the result to come back?
Right now, you need to take a photo from the application or upload a photo from your gallery parts. But in August, we are going to implement our computer vision service to the applications, actually, which means that you don't need to take anything. You just need to keep your camera to the object that whatever you want to take, actually. And so you can also get a description from our application. But right now, you need to take a photo or upload a photo from your gallery.
Okay, got it. That makes sense. I mean, even once you implement the real-time stuff, like it's still you're gonna get the better result by uploading the photo because you can only do so much on device. So yeah, that makes sense.
Okay, so first I want to welcome you, a warm welcome. I'm so glad when I have a lady talking about technology because, stereotyping, they always say that we ladies are nothing for technology, so yeah, so welcome. And then I have two questions. First one is related to privacy. That a blind person sometimes may take a photo which is not really, it may contain some details that shouldn't be present with people or something like that. So in this case, can the person or is the photo only shown to the AI model? Or is it shown also to the human volunteers?
You don't need to show your photo to the volunteers for every time because we have two sections in our application. The first one is the AI section. If you think that it is needed to be shown to the artificial intelligence service actually, you can send them to the artificial intelligence service in order to recognize them, in order to identify them maybe. And if you think that it is needed to be sent to the descriptors of the application, you just need to press not enough button. If you do this, actually, we can send them to the descriptors of the applications. Without doing this, nobody can see your photos, actually.
And for how much time the photo is stored in the database?
Actually, normally, it is up to your prefer, by the way. For example, if you delete a photo from your archive, actually, session, we directly delete your data from our database at the same time. But if you don't delete it, actually, we don't have any limitation. We can store our data at the end of the world or something like that.
Okay, so the last question, which is small one, it's short, just something related to sharing from another applications. So if I want, let's say, to share directly from WhatsApp, can I share directly the image to the application?
Yes. You can do on the Android part right now. You can share the photos from the other applications. On the iOS part, by the way, you are going to do this when we solve and default actually from our application. Right now, you can upload the photo by using the Android system actually.
Great. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
And therein is the superiority of the Android system. Just saying.
Can I also ask something?
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, first of all, I'm so then glad that we have the technology coming from Turkey. I'm more than glad for this, which is something so proud for us.
Thank you
And
so much.
I'm wondering about the volunteers part. Are there enough volunteers if you want to ask volunteers about the photo? Because, I mean, a volunteer part is also important if
Yeah.
AI part is not enough. Is there
Uh,
enough volunteers? And what about the countries of volunteers? Do we have enough
okay.
volunteers for now?
That's a great question, by
Yeah.
the way,
Mhm.
and maybe explain a bit detailedly by on this side. Actually, right now, yes, we have enough volunteers because we create a system in our application. It's kind of a system that, for example, you make a request in order to get a description from our application, and which is English, by the way. Let's think that you upload a photo to the application, and you need to ask, for example, get a description from a volunteer. And you create a request in English. It doesn't matter actually. It's not to be all of the volunteers of the applications. It doesn't up to the, for example, the language of it, because we have a translation API in our application. It means that it directly translates your request to the all of the language of the volunteers actually. And if they type anything, for example, different than English or something like that, we directly translate them to your own language. So we solved the actually volunteer language problem in our application. So it doesn't matter actually. From all of the countries, you can also log in to the application and download our application actually, because we develop a kind of a technology like this. It's kind of a global one right now.
So how someone can be a volunteer if they want to be a volunteer for the app?
By the way, everyone can be a volunteer. Because when they download the app, actually, first of all, they see a screen. There are two registration part of the application. The first one is visually impaired users part, actually, and the second section of the screen is the volunteer and descriptors section of it. When they press to the descriptor button, actually, they can easily register to the application.
And finally, what happens, like, for example, I'm a blind person, but what happens if I accidentally press I'm a volunteer button?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
Right now, probably you directly log into the application, register to the application, because we don't have a limitation. What is the main reason of this is because everyone wonder our application right now, especially in Turkey, because they really want to try the visually impaired users and the descriptors part at the same time. So we don't have any limitation right now. But in the near future, we are going to put a detector to the application which detects your screen reader, kind of voiceover or the talkback actually. But right now there is no limitation. So you can look at the volunteer part at the same time if you want.
Wonderful. I like the sound of it. Now, there's something that blind people often have problems or struggles with, and most especially, some of us are not all that spatially aware. And so when it comes to taking pictures and all of that, they kind of like that guidance. And I'm not sure if this one has any guidance. For example, I want to take a picture, since it doesn't know what I'm trying to capture a picture of, I can see there may be a challenge in the way of a guidance. So I'm basically kind of maybe answering my own question here because I'm thinking about, hey, I want to have guidance to say, hey, okay, now you can shoot the picture or whatever. But since it is not something that is based on modes, for example, say, hey, I'm trying to take a capture text on a piece of paper, and I have this piece of paper in front of me, and I've switched to that text mode. Then, of course, it will give me that guidance when it sees all the four corners. So I guess I've answered my question in the sense that there's probably no need for guidance, but yet in the same breath, do you think you guys could put some guidance? Maybe I want to take a picture of something and to let me know when it's in view, but I guess that would have to come with the real-time mode, right? Basically, it would tell me what it sees, and if that's not what I want, then I move it till it gets to what I want, and then I take the picture, right? I think I sort of answer my question there.
Yes, and that's a great question, and that's a great developing part of the application right now, because we really work on the computer vision service in order to create a guidance, by the way, which means that actually it's basically based on the real time of your camera. So yes, we create a feature like this, and it is going to be launched on August right now. Your own digital guidance actually in the real time. Yeah.
Great. So maybe when you have it, then we could have Zülal come back again and talk about it, and then we go out and have a party thereafter, right?
Yes, it will be great, by the way, because we, as I mentioned before, we analyze your data. For example, our main purpose is to create the most technological sites, most technological way for sites, by the way. So we analyze your, for example, the screen waiting data. We know that, for example, when you wait on your description screen, for example, in a couple minutes, actually in 2 minutes or 1 minute maybe, you need to, for example, recognize the colors of the objects, or you need to, for example, recognize the positions of the objects. We directly make a segmentation in our application, which means that in August, when you keep your camera, for example, to an object, when you wait 2 minutes, or maybe just seconds, actually, it is up to your preference, actually. For example, when you keep your camera in 7 seconds, maybe, you need to, for example, you try to get the descriptions with colors, or you, for example, need to get descriptions with mostly oriented with the positions, and it is going to be more unique and for maybe more individual sense, maybe. So it means that, by the way, when we keep our cameras together, let's think that to the same maybe scene or to the same maybe object or something like that, we are not going to get the same descriptions from the camera in the real time. It means that actually we are going to put an effort to the independent mobility part of it. Because, as you know, we need to, for example, spend our efforts by training in the independent mobility section sometimes. But by doing this, actually, especially the trainers in the independent mobility sections are not going to, for example, put an effort or, for example, training the individuals in the rooms or something like that, because artificial intelligence is going to do this. This is a near feature of the technology, because there are 330 million visually impaired users right now. And we talk about the autonomous cars or something like that, but we don't develop the technology for the visually impaired users in order to create the most technological and unique version of sites. I don't accept this because we need to train our technology based on our requirements right now without wasting times, maybe.
Thank you so much for that passion. I really like that passion, and that's why we got you on here, Zülal. Because
thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Little did I know we were going to get a firebrand here, and it's absolutely beautiful seeing you with all of that passion. And when someone has such a passion, we're in for a treat.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be with you guys and share my own app and my new technology with you, because we create a feature with our users. So we are going to create our technology with our users again. So I really know that we have so many founders of the applications who are the users of the application. So I really want to explain my main purpose and my own way. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Related to the development of the application, are you an app developer yourself, or you have a company and you have other app developers? What's the case about the development?
I am one of the app developers in my own app. Yes, I'm one of the developers at the same time, and I have also my own developers in my team actually at the same time. We develop our applications together. My main actually special field is image recognition because I was trained by Microsoft Turkey in order to become an employee of Microsoft, and then I give up to be, for example, an employee of Microsoft, and I build on my company. So I have for example, a good passion by developing the apps actually, especially based on image recognition service. Yeah.
Oh, wonderful.
Thank you so much.
So I think I'll forgive Sally. I've been telling him to bring on a Turkish girl for our Android journey, and he hasn't been able to do that. And
The
you coming
mission's
here,
complete. Yeah.
you coming on here is like 100 Turkish girls come on here. So you are truly a representative of the Turkish girls and Turkish people. And thank you for coming on here. And Sally, you have been freed from my obligation.
Well, that's great because you said by the end of May. So
Yes. I gave him
Well,
till May 30th to bring a
yeah,
Turkish
and the
girl because
mission's
we
complete.
haven't heard any Turkish girl, and so I gave him till May the 30th. And now, since you are here, Sally, you're forgiven. You're no more obligated to bringing on a Turkish girl to talk about her Android journey story. Well, we thank you so much for coming on, and I know we could go on, but of course we do realize it's getting late there in Turkey, and
It doesn't matter.
a young lady may want to do some cooking, or dinner time or whatever.
I handle this
Yeah,
before the session.
mhm. Sally was talking about some of the kebab that he had the other week, and who knows? You might be making something like that, some great food. But we do want to thank you for coming on and representing from your eyes.
You're
And
welcome.
like I said, if anytime you want to come back, when you have something new, absolutely come back and let's talk about some of those improvements because
Thank
our
you.
listeners would like to hear about those things. And
Thank
guys, how do people get in touch with you? You have a website, or could we just
Yeah.
reach you from the website included on the Play Store page of the app?
Yes. Actually, they can reach us from our website, which is fromrise.app, actually. And then also they can look at our website and they can find the downloading link on this. They can download our application from Play Store and the App Store, maybe, if we can say this.
There we go.
Yeah. What about my English, by the way? I have this question right now.
No, you are such a passionate speaker and absolutely beautiful English. And we thank you so much
Really?
yeah, for taking your time to come on and all that, laughter, it just makes it all just beautiful. Thank you so much. I love it when people have passion about what they do, and you happen to be one of those developers, and that's encouraging to those of us who are users, because if the developer is not passionate about it, it's not going to translate to users, because you got to show that passion, that you really like what you're doing, and that's the case here. You really like what you're doing, and we're thankful for that.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your invitation as well.
Thank you.
Coming up next is the tip of the week. Stay tuned for tips, tricks, and more about Android.
Closing up the episode now, we move to the tip of the week. And John has some nifty trick to show you here. And here's John with our tip of the week for episode 127. John?
Hi, John here. And for today's tip, we're going to be discussing absolute volume when it comes to Bluetooth settings. And this is a developer setting. And the reason I'm mentioning this is because this will help TalkBack to work a lot better if you're using either a Bluetooth speaker, a Bluetooth headset, or Bluetooth earbuds. So there's two main issues that I come across a lot, and this solves both of those. One is that when you connect your headset, TalkBack's, or I should say the accessibility volume, is really low to the point where you can barely hear TalkBack and you can't adjust it. And the only way to fix that is to toggle TalkBack off and then back on again. That's the first issue. The other issue is the fact that when you're using a Bluetooth headset, you can control your accessibility volume separate from your media volume still, but you can never get the accessibility volume to go higher than the media volume. So it's always going to be a percentage of the media volume. So if you ever want your accessibility volume to be louder than the media, like if you're listening to a radio or watching a TV show and you still want to be able to browse like a guide or hear talkback over the media like you can without headphones, that's something that you can't do by default. And if you enable this setting, it will make it so that you can do that. The volumes will behave the same way, basically, as if you didn't have a headset connected, which is a good thing. So I'm in my main settings here. I'm on a Pixel device, so I'm going to go down to the bottom. And you're going to go to
Tips and Support, Help Article, About Phone, Pixel 7 Pro.
About Phone.
About Phone. Navigate Up, button.
Now this is going to be different depending on your device, but in order to enable developer settings, you're going to have to find the build number.
Set build number, UPB 1.2303.
And double tap 7 times.
You are now one. Screen lock, confirm your pattern.
Then it's gonna
Confirm your pattern, heading. Pattern area, pattern started. Cell 4 added. Pattern completed. You are now a developer. About Phone. Build number, Settings. About Phone, Pixel 7 Pro.
So I backed out of there, and now it's different on different devices, but on Pixels, you're going to find developer options.
System, languages, gesture.
Under System.
Navigate up, button.
So I went into System, and down near the bottom,
Reset options. Developer options.
I'm going to go to Developer Options.
Developer options. Navigate up, button.
Now it's a ways down in here, so I'm just going to scroll and see how long it takes us to find it.
Wi-Fi scan throttling. Reduces battery drain.
It's after the Wi-Fi stuff, so I'm almost there.
Network download rate limit. Disable absolute volume. Disables the Bluetooth absolute volume feature in case of volume issues with remote devices such as unacceptably loud volume or lack of control. Off switch.
So this is what you're going to want to turn on. And
on.
I've turned it on. Of course, the description has nothing to do with TalkBack, but trust me, this will make your experience a lot better. It will fix both of those issues I mentioned earlier. And while we're here in the Bluetooth settings, developer settings, I'm going to point out a couple of other things.
Disable Bluetooth A2DP hardware off. Bluetooth map version, map 1. Bluetooth audio codec, use system selection default.
This audio codec, depending on your headset and your device, you may be able to switch between different audio codecs, and in some cases this can help with latency. So there's always going to be latency because you're using a Bluetooth device, but if the latency is too much for you to handle, it's worth coming in here and manually changing to a different codec just to see, because that might help. And another setting,
HD audio, off, switch, disabled.
HD audio. If this is on by default, in some cases I've had this cause my earbuds to be out of sync with each other. So if you're having an issue with that, this is another setting to look at possibly changing to help with your experience using earbuds with TalkBack. So these are 3 settings that are definitely worth looking at if you use a headset, a Bluetooth headset, or Bluetooth earbuds a lot with TalkBack. It'll make your experience far better. Now, of course, there's going to be a caveat, right? Because I mentioned the absolute volume at the beginning of this. And it's not a big deal. It's just something you need to keep in mind. And that's the fact that when you have this absolute volume disabled, you need to remember that the volume controls on your headset or earbuds will no longer control the media volume on your phone. So there are going to be individual volumes now. So I'll give you an example. If you turn down your volume to say 10% using your headset, that's turning down your headset's volume to 10%. So even if you turned your phone's media volume back up to 100%, it would not get any higher than 10%. You'd need to turn it back up on your headphones or headset or earbuds or even Bluetooth speaker. So, like I said, just something to keep in mind. Once you make that distinction, it's not going to be an issue. In a lot of cases, I don't even use the volume on my headset. I always change it on my phone. But if you do use your headset, just keep that in mind. So I hope this has been helpful. I definitely get a lot of use out of this. This is one of the first things I enable when I enable developer settings. So thanks for listening.
Thank you so much. It is curtain drawing time, thus we come to the end of today's episode. And up next, we give you information on how to get hold of us. And with that, we come to the end of this week's episode. Until we see you next week, Austin standing by to give you that information on how you can get hold of us.
To contact us, you can send an email to contactus@blindandroidusers.com. You can join our mailing list by sending an email to blind Android users plus subscribe at groups.io. You can join our Telegram, Facebook, Discord, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. The links for everything will be at the bottom of the show notes and also in the video description of the YouTube channel. And also the links are in the websites panel of the YouTube channels.
And from me, it's goodbye.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the Blind Android Users Podcast. Until we see you next week, don't forget to leave us your comments and suggestions via our email contact or using any of our social media sites. Have a great week.